Hey guys, so today we're kind of going to be going over a theory that is going to take the traditional 12 tone of the circle of fifths and kind of throwing it out the window just for a little bit and taking a look at the Neo-Riemannian theory. So there are a few ways of sort of looking at this theory, and the main concept of the Neo-Riemannian theory is going to be through transformation. The theory basically states that there are three different ways that we can sort of transform going from one triad to the next: the leading tone, the relative, and the parallel. So let's go through those really quick. So basically, from a major triad, the leading tone would tell you that instead of having a triad like C major, C, E, G, we would bump the C down to a B, thus going to the leading tone. The next transformation would basically be from parallel insinuating the parallel minor from the major. So instead of having an E as the third, we would change that to an E flat. The final transformation being the relative transformation, basically telling us that instead of having a CEG triad, we would have a CEA triad. So we're bringing up that fifth up a full step, thus going to the relative key of A minor. The whole theory is basically telling us that triads are related to each other outside of our typical 12-tone system of the circle of fifths. So we can do almost the same thing with the minor triads with a couple of other exceptions. So instead of A, C, E, we can obviously go to the relative of C major, which is C, E, G. So we're basically bumping the A down to a G, back a whole step. Now we can also do something instead of A, C, E, let's move the E up to an F. And of course, we can use the parallel relation of A, C sharp E. And once you kind of get the hang of this, you can sort of just start stacking up all these triangles using these three patterns, and therefore starting to create every single triad possible, therefore in stating that every single triad can be related to each other with these sort of methods outside of the 12-tone circle of fifths system that we're typically used to. Now, if you give this a try, you might mess up a little bit like myself, as sometimes things can get a little confusing when looking at a bunch of these triangles and circles, but I promise you it won't be that bad if you give it a try. Now, how do we actually make use of this practically? Well, one thing is, if you're a guitar player, try something like sweep picking. Sweep picking is a really easy way of getting from one triad to another. Specifically with this theory, they're very close by each other. Now, with composing, of course, you can get some really unique and outstanding sort of chord progressions outside of the simple diatonic scale. Now, obviously, this thing does have its limitations, like doing things with seventh chords can become a lot more complicated, and using diminished chords, augmented chords don't exactly work. But this is still something that I'd highly recommend that you guys start to look into, as it can really up your composition game and your shred game. Now, there are more transformations, like the secondary transformation, like the NSH relation, which basically tells us that we can combine some of these basic operations and do some other really cool sounding transformations. So that is the Neo-Riemannian theory in 3 minutes. This is just a brief introduction for those of you that were curious about understanding it in the easiest way possible. So I hope this really helped, and I will see you guys in the next video.